flow with you. All right, let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, Deborah and Dean. My name is Claudio, and I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble, grateful that Deborah and Dean accepted our invitation to the show. Guys, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like I always ask I always start with the same question, and any of you can reply that, you know, we're still living in crazy time, right? The COVID for the last 2 years affected all of us, whether you believe on the vaccine or not. That's I'm not going after, but it's affected the music business a lot. If you're a touring musician, you couldn't play, you couldn't tour. Many bands that I like, they were depending on traveling and doing some, you know, live gigs. They couldn't do it, so they went back to school and they did that. They disappear. You know, the big bands, they don't have any problem, right? You know, Genesis, they don't care if they don't travel for another 10 years. They have $100 million in the bank, right? So, but the smaller band that are starting up, you know, record label, that the one that they were you know, participate at is very difficult for a musician. How the COVID affected you, your life, your sanity? How you guys holding up, man?
Deb, you wanna go first on that?
Oh, you're gonna make me do it? Okay. This is how we work in the studio, and it's great because we just go, okay, live, well, you first, no, you first, and then it comes together. True. So COVID, the whole past few years, since 2020, 2021, affected many families and many people in multiple dimensional ways. For performing and traveling artists, it became very difficult because by design, everything was shut down by orders and regulations. And so all of the public places that were shut down destroyed the ability for performing artists to have a venue to go to. And that is how they made their living. And I saw a lot of diversity. I saw a lot of change, and radical change with artists, particularly because they were forced to recreate themselves in a different way in order to earn income. And that became a new platform where a lot of artists started doing learning and Zoom calls and all of this. Even the label, even us, we were not allowed to meet like we normally do. So we started scheduling online meetings to talk for label business. It affected us because we're used to gathering together and having that camaraderie in person. It created a social distance that I think is not healthy for anybody. Regular families, people lost jobs because of it.
We were already suffering from social distancing just because of, you know, the internet and you know, all this mobile activity. So then the pandemic comes along, and it's affected everyone, and yet it's still affecting artists and musicians in a very unique way, and all negative, or I should say, you know, all obstacles. That's all. It's just more obstacles, and I hope we bounce back from it soon, because in some way, there seems like a coldness behind the idea of the changes that the pandemic has kind of left in its wake. The, you know, in many ways unsatisfactory changes compared to the type and level of productivity we had before it hit. So artists are just kind of like, I mean, artists are just shoved into the back because you know, let's face it, we're not running the world. We're not a priority. And the people who are running the world are having a tough time recovering from the pandemic. So, or even dealing with it. So here we are kind of, like I said, just shoved over. And it's this extra challenge to actually keep our foot somewhat in the door, so to speak, and you know, limelight on us to a decent degree because of that.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, or something. Well, Claudio and Dean both, and for everyone that will be listening to this, I think that this situation did create many challenges, specifically in the fields of art where you want to be heard or seen. And because we couldn't, it also created a resilience in the artists that wanted to continue. And they were challenged to find another way or another means to do it. So it also became, while there was all this negativity, I always like to go to the positive side. There's a dichotomy, there's two sides, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so it created wonderful opportunities for those who felt like, well, okay, we got shut down here. Well, we got to think of a different way to do it. And it created this wonderful scenario where a lot of artists started doing these live streams. Now, it didn't have quite the personal touch that going to an actual concert and all those people, it's like going to a church. All those people come together and they're all worshiping the same thing. They're going to see that band, right? Or they're going to see that performer. And there's a certain energy set that happens with that in a live setting. So that was diminished, but the real heavy duty fans and those that really wanted to support that artist had another means to do it by that artist going live stream and everything. I wish the three of us were sitting in a living room with cups of coffee in the same place, doing this, because that creates a different ball of energy. We have great energy here, of course, but it does create something different. But these artists, I think that it created I think that all artists and all people in the art world, whether it be visual or audio arts or film, we have a resilience that we're all on the same stream of energy. And I think we can feel the angst between us and also the successes between us that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I feel that that's, part of what occurred here. And there's going to be more of that. But the public, I think, is going to end up dictating how this is going to continue. They want the live performances. They're so happy to be there and sharing, and you get this camaraderie that you don't get online unless you're doing like a live chat thing, and you get a little bit of it, but it's a different feel.
It's a different, And as I was mentioning before, it so happened that I live here in North Virginia, and, where the income per capita is one of the highest in the country. So people have disposable income. There are many bands coming every weekend, many concerts, many venues. So it's good to be an artist coming this way, and it's good for me to be a consumer of your product, being music, and being able to see a lot of bands. They're all, when you go to a big stadium, there's a different section for different prices. So it's priced correctly for some people. Not everybody can afford $200 a ticket. And many venues that I go, there are 40, 50 shows a year, a night, right? For example, I'm seeing Gene Messina tonight, and it costs, I think it's $40 or $42 or something like that. Very inexpensive. Everybody I suppose, could afford that, right? As opposed to when Genesis comes to town, it's like 200 at the minimum, or Fleetwood Mac or Peter Gabriel, all the big names, and I'm very lucky. And what you're saying, Deborah, is very important. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, many bands disappear. I mean, some people are resilient, reinvent themselves, and others say, "Well, I don't want to deal with the stuff. My wife, I have a wife, I have 2 kids, whatever. I got to put food on the table, so I better go to school or get another job and forget about music for a couple of years. Well, I go, go back on my feet again, and then go back to music." And some people never did, and some people did. So,
yeah, I'm surrounded by that constantly. I think Deb is too. And we probably both know lots of people who have given up and not looked back for reasons like that.
Yeah, fortunately.
And it's like, we try to encourage them. That's all we have the power to do is try to encourage them. And if they really were meant for that diverting or that change of path, then they were,
Yeah, and you always need to be. You always have to have a sort of, like, how I call it, dynamic strategy. You need to have a strategy like Deborah have for your business, but you always, the world is shifting behind you, right? It's like you're on top of a carpet, somebody moving the carpet left and right? So you need to have a shift and strategy. You need to anticipate what is going to happen in the future. Otherwise, you would not survive, right? All the business need to do the same, right? So, and people are very static, right? No, I want to do this, and I don't care this about social media or this or that, bombarding me. that part of the world. You need to, I don't like social media, but I have no choice. I need to engage, participate, and post and open this, so that whether I like it or not is relevant. The world is dictating me in many ways. How can I need to manage my life on my music things,
Yes,
and
exactly.
stuff like that. Dean, as a question for you, were you born like in a musical family? How old were you when you perhaps began taking piano lessons or guitar lessons? How music came into your life?
Yeah, I guess born into a musical family. It was a performing family, that's for sure. My father was a composer off Broadway, and then when he came out here, he came out here because he got work for television. So I grew up with that, being exposed to, I wouldn't even say that whole world, because there was a few worlds in there. And then my mother, on my mother's side, my grandmother was a cutting edge choreographer back in the like 40s and 50s, and she gave it up to start a music school because there was no money in being a cutting edge artist. There still isn't. That hasn't changed.
Right.
So she gave all that up to start a music school in Long Island, and she was there, and she had run that until retirement. And my mother danced for her when she was still a choreographer. I guess that was not necessarily off Broadway. It was in Manhattan. All this was going on in Manhattan, where they all met. And before I was born, and I think I was born, they came out here when I was 2. So I've been exposed to kind of all these, all those worlds. And my father, he had this drive to pursue multiple, to utilize all of his talents. I don't think he felt right wasting anything he had great skill for, that he could either monetize or just make some kind of difference in people's lives. And so he would pursue lots of different avenues while he was working for scoring for television, and he would produce plays, and he produced The Suicide when it was this kind of famous British play. And when it came out here, he produced that. He produced a bunch of different musicals, and worked with lots of songwriters of that time and culture. And he was all over the place. He really wanted to utilize his talents. And I think, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, that's been my detriment, as I kind of learned. I guess I took an example from that, and I noticed that I had more than skill for just music, or just the specific kind of music, I should say. And so I've been pursuing lots of different, lots of these different avenues that I have skill for.
Yeah.
And it has diluted things a little bit, taking a lot of the attention away from ways that an artist would typically establish themselves with a given product as a consistency. So I'm working towards remedying that. And I think I'm luckily desensitized. This project with Deb really helps me close that gap. She's almost like this beacon, because she keeps me focused on one type of music while I'm trying to do all this other stuff and not making the best ground on any of it.
Yeah.
I'm getting better, but desensitized has really helped to keep me focused on one thing, even just these 2 albums.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sometimes we try to do 4 or 5 things and we don't do it well, right? Because we need to spend the time to do them. Maybe
and we don't realize that until we've done it. So
until we've done it, yeah. But it's always good to keep on opening new ideas, and reaching out within yourself to discover new way to do things, and expanding your limits, or getting out of the box. I would say I do that all the time, and but it's I don't know, if ideas come to you, you need to put it aside perhaps for a couple of weeks. You concentrate on what you're doing on hand, right, with the project, the assignment that you have on hand, but don't get it down, right? I'm always writing stuff down of things that I would like to get to, and I do.
I mean, I've had breakthroughs that, official breakthroughs, things that critics loved because, I had this amazing idea it's interfering a bit with what I was doing before, but I suspect this is really worth pursuing. And I saw it through, and it took me years off course, or a couple of years off course, but the result was some album that people really loved in a completely different genre. And so it does, you know,
Right.
it's this particular type of business or state of mind, I'll say, train of thought, process, has its merits. It's just that, yeah, it's gotten a little carried away. So now I'm just trying to pull the reins back, and I think it's starting to come back, so to speak.
Yeah, and good. That's great. A question for you, Deborah, and you know, I have interviewed, as you know, several people from your record label, and everybody say the same thing. I'm so proud to be part of this record label because it's different, and so on and so forth. I wouldn't go anywhere else. And why do you think that the Spotted Peccary is different? From my point of view, the quality, the picture, the font that they use, the imaging, the recording. Maybe I'm answering the question for you, but it's very different. You know, okay, I compared that to Windham Hill, for example, right? So why the albums of, you know, Spotted Peccary are so different that, you know, XYZ record label, you know, what
Well,
make you different? Yeah.
there's several ways to answer that, but I'm gonna go, I usually go right for the gut. I think part of it is, I think the main part is because of Spotted Peccary music's core value of the integrity of artists. Why are we doing what we do? Because we have a passion for it, because we do believe music is art, or music as art, okay? And I think that the core value has a huge integrity and moral quality to it that we give to those artists. We bring them in. It's like a family. It's like a huge family of like-minded individuals coming together for a great purpose. And we don't focus, and I think this is the main thing, and I'm going to compare this. We're not as huge as Apple, okay, or the company. Steve Jobs made a beautiful statement in a YouTube video about this concept, about there are about maybe 20 companies in the world that are the biggest companies in the world, but they didn't become that way because they wanted to make money. It was how they put themselves forward. Nike was one of them. Just do it. They didn't talk about their shoes. And this is what Steve Jobs said. They talked about the athletes that wore the shoes, their incredible accomplishments. The same with the Apple computers. They didn't start talking about the technical aspects, about how many bytes per second or how big the memory was. They talked about it more as realizing your dreams and being able to use a computer. And I cracked up because he showed pictures of Albert Einstein and Martin Luther King, and they had an advertising company that put this together, and it took them several years to find this advertising company that they believed in. And the video showed all those, and then Steve Jobs said at the end of it, he goes, "Do you guys like this?" He was doing a lecture to all the Apple employees, and he said, "You know, when I think about it, if Albert Einstein or any of those people, if those individuals had been able to have a computer back in their time when they were working, it would have been a Mac." That's what he said. And I laughed. But what's interesting, it's not about that. It's about the core value. Why do we do what we do? What is the value? The music itself is the value. We didn't do this record label because we wanted to become millionaires and famous people like some of the rock bands, you know. We're not the Mick Jagger, but I do like to think of us as the Mick Jagger or the Genesis or the, you know, Sting of the ambient electronic world. Because
absolutely, yeah,
we do make a statement in regards to the quality and the integrity that our label puts forward. And I think that the artists are drawn to that because of that fact. And we are artist owned and operated. So we want those artists to get recognized for their achievements. And I think that if you're an artist on Spotted Peccary, and we got a lot of people right now trying to get on, even artists from other labels are asking if they can submit stuff to us. And that kind of, I'm like, well, maybe they're not happy. I don't know, but I do know that we carefully it's not that we curate so much. We actually take the time. I'll call an artist that's interested in being part of it, and I'll have several conversations, or because I travel a lot, I'll go and meet them in person and meet them, and we talk about just anything, maybe not even about their music, just about who they are and what their goals, what their dreams and visions are. And then I go back, and the whole Spotted Peccary team will say, well, let's hear what their music is. And then we listen to it and see if that actually fits what they are as a person. Are they just putting music because they just want to make a lot of money? Or we have artists that say, hey, I got this great album and I've got it all over the place and it's selling, it's doing well, so we thought maybe you'd like to put it in your catalog. Well, that's not the reason that we do the music, you see.
Correct, absolutely.
And
yeah.
I think that all the artists, they do say the same thing, because they are part of something much bigger than themselves. And that's what our core is. How do you get that message out there? So we want to do it one listener at a time. We get people that have sent us messages saying, oh my God, my life was a mess, and all of a sudden I heard this music and I felt hopeful.
That's
I
right.
could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe we're, this is much bigger than any of us. And so Dean and I think, we create because I think we're very similar. I do lots of different things. I've worked in medicine, I've worked in law, I was a pre-med student, and then I've worked in government, and I've worked in legal. And doing all of these things and doing music therapy and all of that, you meet so many different types of people, and doing music in different forms, country music, liturgical music, sacred music, and writing different styles. And all of that culminates into my craziness because Dean's experienced it. So I hope that answers your question.
It's not as though she hasn't experienced mine, that's for sure. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Right? These are the things that make us complex beings, and we all know that. We all move through life with these various stories and skills and avenues and secrets, and trying to make sense of them and or tie them together somehow. I guess is like the artist's eternal, chief concern. Somehow deep down, even when we don't act on it, it's like, oh, how am I gonna utilize all that stuff I experienced in what I create, and but we do what we can, and we try to express as much of it as we can that we think should be known or should be portrayed, and the rest, we just have to have faith in the cosmos, I guess, or the unfolding of things. I do want to echo some, what Deb is saying about the label too. I think that's, she pretty much put it the same way I was going to put it, but better. And that's mainly because she runs the label. She knows what this is about. And it seems like this integrity and this kind of almost, I don't want to sound dogmatic or supernatural when I say spiritual. I just want to say the essence. I just want it to mean the essence of things. And it seems like it's almost on this unspoken spiritual essence type of level, that she and the others who run the label are, it's like a focus that's without focus, without actually trying to pinpoint it. Although we try, but it's just there. And whether we, sometimes we succeed at explaining what it is, and sometimes we don't, because this is always moving. But just to know it, and just to all, be able to be in the room and know it together. I think there's nothing that bonds people like music, when they share musical tastes and when they share a deep passion for, something about music that they find sacred. And that, that this label has, and the label has also been an evolution. I've noticed it broaden extremely, and in this really beautiful way. A very, I can see it's almost like the intellect of a mind that's expanding as it grows into adulthood. And it's like, now it's an adult, but it just keeps expanding, and it's it's beautiful to see the open-mindedness unfold with this label. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, from my point of view as a consumer, you probably, yeah, like Deborah was saying, the people like Mac computers, and they know exactly what they're looking for. They know exactly, yeah, they pay a little more money, but the end product is, is much better. The quality much better. There's with a lot of thought in putting a good Mac together and a good strategy. The same with the Sport Peccary level. Every time, right, you can do a thought experiment. People are supposed will be wearing blinds, or so they will cover the computer. I mean, the CDs or the vinyl in front of them, right, and will be in a different room. You will put 10 records, right, and then very likely 10 out of 10 will know that it's Sport Peccary, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't know, because then you will show the album and the quality of the font and the picture and the remastering is the mark of the record labels, I suppose.
Well,
If I
thank
can,
you.
it's a good quality. People favor. People are willing to pay for the premium. This is not an accident, right? The same with, I don't know, maybe Starbucks, right? You can get a cup of coffee for down the street for $1.50 or $1.25, whatever, right? When you go to a gas store, you're on the highway, but people are willing to pay $2.25, whatever, for Starbucks. There is no an accident, right? People will pay because they expect a better service, better bathroom, better quality of coffee, and
They
so
know the
forth.
quality. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like, Sport Peccary have a very good strategy behind it to be, they are not going to the million record label, and they don't want to have probably 500 artists on the record label. Maybe they have 100 or 50 or 100, but each of them has been handpicked, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. Many people, like you say, they were before, hey, I want to reach out to you guys because I want to make a lot of money. I put this electronic track, and that's quite sure it would never work. It's a person start a conversation with that that it's not a good fit, maybe. So
Well, now another thing that I do want to say though about the Spotted Peccary team, there are 7 of us or 8 of us, and Howard is an incredible
Yeah.
source and
Yeah.
resource for the
yeah,
mastering, and Ben Cox is another mastering engineer. We have 2, and Daniel Pipitone with his incredible artwork, Beth Hilton, who helps with she's our communications director. She makes sure that we are where we need to be and puts out announcements and does marketing and social media. And then we have Andrew Miles. He's also an artist, the DeeperNet artist, and he is incredible with doing our Bandcamp things and helping all the artists he's our project coordinator. So he reaches out to the artists when releases are being worked on to make sure that they're getting what they need. And he asks them questions about the release so that they can begin to talk about why they're doing that music. We have John Jenkins. He's one of the owners, as well as Howard and myself. And the 3 of us, we have meetings all the time where we talk about what are our goals? Where is it that we want the label to go and expand? And how can we do that and incorporate all the artists together? I think that each of us, including the artists that are on our label, we complement each other. We help each other. We're always reaching out. The artists talk among themselves and they work together, or if they need help, we have Holland Holmes. He'll reach out to David Helpling, or he'll reach out to Jordan Lake, and they'll be asking questions, talking among. He called me the other day and said, "Hey Deb, I got a question for you. I got this going on," and what blah blah blah. And we just have conversations with each other.
yeah,
And that, I think, is part of our core of we're supporting each other's dreams and visions at the same time. Like I had already said, it becomes much bigger than we are. We're just a little tiny speck in this huge universe of sound. And what
yeah,
can we do to make it better? That's what
yeah,
we're doing. We're striving to keep improving, keep making it better, keep doing what we do. We're peccaries. We just kind of go along, and that's it. So, and if you will allow me, I want to give you an example. We just came out with our Chaos in Premonition album, and
yep,
it's already getting great stuff on it. And I had to come up with some sentences. And Dean, I hope you'll agree with what I wrote because I had to do it quickly. But one of the sentences I wrote is the concept or the idea of applying two languages on the desensitized projects, my weird words and things, it was essential to expressing a musical scenario much larger in scope than each artist's individual works, meaning mine and Dean's works. We wanted to express something much larger and different, okay?
Yeah.
And the title, Chaos in Premonition, was cast upon the realization of uniting our intuitive natures during the collaborative process, evolving out of the chaos of thoughts, transforming our collective ideas into their compositional form. And growth as an artist, it requires an artist getting out of their comfort zone, pushing boundaries to see what the potential outcome could become. Chaos and Premonition is such a project. This collaboration became an adventure to reach beyond our past projects, exploring the nature of the sounds and recordings, taking a leap to create a new theme as an expansion from the Hemispherica Portalis, the Portal of 1,000 Years release. It was a pathway leading from there with a much deeper and introspective journey. And so I had to come up with that the other day, Dean, and I hope Beth has it. So I don't know what she's going to do.
No, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah.
How do we do that? And
Go ahead. Yeah.
well, you have to become the project in order to think about it, I think. If you're, I had to go back into Hemispherica and all the craziness when we were having fun with that. And then I had to bridge from there to this second album. And then I'm going to have to bridge again, and Dean will be bridging with me for our next release, which will be, again, a culmination of growth from the very first one. But they all will tell a cohesive story, all three of them. So that will be very, very fantastic, I think. And I'm excited about it. I know Dean's excited about it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the new album. And Beth has been very helpful. I mean, she always send me and recommend me stuff. And every time that I talk to an artist, send me press kits. So she's very good in what she does. So it's pretty good. And so I'm very fortunate to have met her. And this album is fantastic. I really like it. I listened to the album probably 3 times in the last 3 days when I was putting questions for this, and it's very good done. It's very good, very different from the other one. But I really like it. Feel free. Let's go back to the beginning. How was the idea to put this together? Do you work? Didn't you start working stuff and send stuff to bed, and you reach to a point, you send files back and forth, and then okay, now it's time for you to come here to Oregon, and then let's be in the same room for 3 days and then finish it up? What's the collaboration, the creative process behind something like this?
I mean, ideally, that's the way electronic musicians collaborate.
Yeah.
I've started a lot of collaborations with other electronic musicians in that way.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the last 2 decades, the last 20 years, there's been a lot of flux in my life. It's a lot different than when I released my first albums. There's been so I started projects with other artists, some of them very established, and I just couldn't continue because there was too much, there was going to be too much back and forth files required to finish it. And I mean, I was having crashes and, getting computers stolen, and it's been quite a ride for the last 20 years. I'm happy to say it's starting to even off to some degree, and any degree is great at this point. But Deb came along, and I mean, I teach electronic music and improvisation. I teach piano improvisation. This is my world, is music theory and sound design and all the intricacies of complex modern technological music. And I'm not going to claim to be the master or anything, but it's just that's my world. And so when Deb offered to to collaborate, I just knew it was going to be great because I can always make something work and always make something interesting, and especially when I let go and let someone else's influence or other people's influence take control and take what I brought to it from there. There's any artist's collaboration, there's always differences and things like we have to negotiate and stuff like that, sure. But I was confident, she's an established recording artist, so I was confident from the word go. From the moment she asked me, I knew that we could do something great. So really from that point on, it was just a matter of how she wanted to do it. And that's kind of how it's been. She said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. So she gets going. She's inspired. It all comes to her in this, these visions. And I just sit back and kind of get entertained by it because I love inspiration. And I know that, I'm confident that it's going to come out great one way or another, because the label is a stickler for quality, for one. And for two, she's a great artist. She's a great recording artist and solo artist. These are things I can always have confidence in. And then lastly, she's taken because of this, she has taken the reins, and that's really what I needed. Because like I said, I was dropping the ball on all these other collaborations and bless these artists for complimenting me so much by saying, I would like to collaborate with you on an equal endeavor where you are just as much in charge of the final product as I am. And it was such a beautiful gesture on their part to want to include me on such a thing. But I just wasn't, I guess, ready. I wasn't at the place in life where I could be responsible enough to follow through on things like that. So Deb comes along and she's like, I'll do everything. It's no problem. All you got to do is, just be as much a part of it as you want to. And I was like, all right, let's, and that's, again, one of the ways that this project has kind of been a lifeline to me. It's kind of been taking me by the hand and saying, it's okay, it's all right. All the disasters and obstacles and things you've had over the last 20 years doesn't mean that it's all stopping. Just let's do this and you'll be okay. Without actually saying these words, that's how this project has felt.
Wow, unbelievable, man. How you manage, Deborah?
Well,
I mean, you have a record label to run and put, I don't know, 3 days or 4 days, whatever it took to put this aside and take care of business, so to speak. It's not that easy, for her, right?
Well, for Desensitized, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, like you said, that luckily, because Deb offered to do, to do all the work, I'll just do what you want for it. And so it hasn't been that time consuming at all because I've been pursuing my solo album for Spotted, these films that these people I was obligated to finish for them. I mean, there were people that paid me, there were employers. There's all this stuff I've been juggling with all this flux. And so Desensitized I haven't needed to really put much aside for it because she's done most of it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Well, now I will say though that he has done quite a bit. He is a true collaborator, and we didn't send any files back and forth to answer that question. We never did.
Yeah.
He traveled. That's why I'm saying true collaboration. Dean spent 2 weeks with me 3 years ago now, or whatever, before the first album came out. He drove up here and we hung out in the house, and literally we locked ourselves in my studio room, and my husband Chris would make food for us and check on us to make sure we were still alive. But we just went in there, and Dean would say, hey, I have this stem that I created. What do you think of it? And he played it, and as soon as I heard it, what did I do? I turned on the keyboard was on, and I just started playing to it live. And all those songs transformed. We did that in 2 weeks. But then afterwards, there wasn't much editing to do. But then before a mix, you have to listen to all of the tracks and make sure that the sounds are there. Dean commented on things he wanted to make sure certain sounds were in certain places. Yeah. And so that happened. And then all I did was work the arrangements a little bit, and then got it ready for mixing. And my friend Matt Stewart, he's also a Spotted Peccary artist, and he came and stayed for a week or two with me when we did the mixing on the Hemispherica album. And he's a fantastic artist. Oh my God, he's so creative. And we've been friends for 30 years, but he came and we got it mixed, and Dean got to hear the mixes, and he goes, oh my God, this is, and then Howard, of course, took over from there to do the mastering. And the second album, this Chaos, because we've kind of gotten into this rhythm, we kind of intuitively, that's why I made that statement about the intuitiveness. We kind of each know, even though we're very different artists individually, when we come together, it's like we become this new artist. It's one. And he came and stayed for about 10 days, and we literally composed the album together in my studio. Wow. There was no file sending. We don't do that.
Yeah.
I prefer not to do that because, like I said, the energy, and we were inspiring each other as we were doing it. Dean was playing something. I went, oh, I love it. I have to have that sound. Play it again. And he'd play it, and then I'd go and do something to it, and he'd go, oh, I like what you did. Let me add this. And that's how we created this second album. It was great. And it also was a growth for us. We went much deeper into ourselves and into, okay, who is desensitized? Well, we're this new artist, and we're creating something totally. And that's what music is. And so that it was wonderful. We have so much fun because we just go in, we get coffee in the morning. I'm in my pajamas. Okay, let's get to work, and we go in there. And he's rubbing sleep out of his eyes, and he goes, okay, I'm ready. And we just go do it. That's it.
It's quite a treat to actually just, and I guess in some ways that's old fashioned. Like, people used to make music this way, even electronic music. They would just show up at each other's houses and, make morning coffee and then enjoy themselves. And it's like, I haven't done that, and I can't even remember the last time for collaboration. And so this collaboration has been a real treat in that way. Like, we get to actually just kind of live with the music and enjoy ourselves making it. It's kind of like a jam session that lasts for a couple of weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
And it's a treat. It really is.
Yeah, many great albums were created that way. Like I don't know, we use Tangerine Dream as an example. They will rent a house somewhere in Germany. Okay, we get together the first, and then we finish by the 9th. And we have a studio there, and let's concentrate. Everybody show up. The internet, of course, didn't exist, and everybody in the same room collaborated back and forth, arguing and this, staying late or waking up late in the morning, and at the end of 10 days, they have an unbelievable product. As I say, I'm not a musician. I don't know how to play music. I don't know how to read music. I just enjoy listening to stuff. It's amazing that people can do stuff. It's art. I don't know. It's amazing. So
we're very grateful for folks like you who get that. Understand? Not everybody gets that. It's a world of hype, and especially in a modern age, and so so these the value of these works can get lost in the mix, quite literally, and so we really relish folks like you, who get it.
Yeah. Who put the cover? And I know you have Dean behind you to your right, and feel free to show the CD that you have open. You were opening before. That's unbelievable. I mean, the images and
that's all Daniel.
That's Daniel.
Daniel is very intuitive, and he listens to the music before he puts the art together. Now, I've had many conversations with him about the album and about what our concept was for the project, and we have to go very deep inside to figure that out. And I did something different this time, and Dean agreed with me. And don't get me wrong, Dean's trying to give me all the credit, but no, he is definitely collaborating with me on this. The sounds he comes up with, I couldn't do that, but I did what I did.
I did a lot more on this album than the last one, but it's still a collaboration. Yeah,
absolutely. He did the sounds and everything. But in terms of the concept, like the song titles, when I knew that Dean was coming to spend 2 weeks with me on Hemispherica, I freaked out. I went, oh my God, I can't have him show up and me not have anything ready for him. And I was still plugging in things in the studio, and I started talking to the gear. Okay, Mr. V-Synth. Okay, all right, blah, blah, blah. And And then these weird names popped in my head. So I wrote them all down and I said, hey, we could call them that. That's kind of its own language. And so when Dean arrived, I told him that and he goes, oh my God, that's great. Yeah. So we have, that's why I mentioned the two languages. We have the English and then the actual words. Well, we had the weird name as the song title on Hemispherica Portalis, which means portal of 1,000 years, meaning timelessness. And this time I reversed it. I put the English name first.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Put the weird name second. And we'll go back to the weird name first and the English translation second on the third project. So
the alternate universe Latin, we can refer to it as that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Latin in an alternate universe. Yeah.
And my favorite, the way Dean pronounces it cracks me up because it's this British secret agent 007 kind of a accent on subliminostrum. You have to say it, Dean. It's just excellent.
Subliminostrum.
You say subliminostrum or whatever, however you pronounce it. It's awesome.
Man, it's been a while since I was there last and we were working on it.
I know, but every time he says it, it's like I'm talking to a secret agent. It's just great.
That's right.
Code word.
A CIA agent or something.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, it was, we inspired, a lot of cultural metaphors, I think, with this, not only with the album, but with the process of doing it. Like she's saying, like she really did go deep into the language. I mean, here we were trying some new techniques musically and sonically in the production, and ooh, this is going to be new and interesting. And then, she's given me her ideas for the cover and for the titles, and in some ways, similar to before, but it's still in a new way. But then she sits me down at the dining room table, I think, her and Chris,
we were
husband there. Chris, who helps with a lot of this too. And they sat me down and they're like, okay, based on this album title, give us a 1-sentence poem. I think there was a couple of 2-sentence poems in there too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if it was Chris's idea or Deb's. I was assuming it was Deb's, but Chris ran with it. And then Chris...
it was mine. Yeah, he was just helping facilitate getting that depth. And the reason we wanted to do that is while it was still fresh in our heads from all the creative of the music, we wanted to describe each song. So I'm going to show that this is a beautiful booklet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Each song has a quote from each of us, and that's what, so Dean had to go into himself to think of what that song was about for him. And so, like, mutations of the highest order, Motho, which by the way, Bill Fox is playing right now. It's on his show. So
nice.
Wow. And it's Motho.
Brilliant. I'm a huge advocate for any type of abstract aesthetic or art or even written word. And so I love fractured sentences and I love piecing them together from different people. They say there's no real strategy or vision to that. There's a lot of schools of thought that argue against its validity, but I love it. I never, it just never gets old for me for some reason, because I love that side of abstract literature where there's these fractured meanings that come together on a collaborative meaning. Like I really dig it. And she did kind of create a new language for this, almost literally, I mean, from the English language anyway.
Yeah, and but what's interesting is that we were able to create from it. And the reason I brought up the mutations of the highest order, Motho, is I wrote sacrifice and joyous celebration, and Dean wrote authority and the trees. Now, what this song is about is, if you were to go back 1,000 years to the Aztec and Mayan civilizations, they worshipped all the elements. They had sacrifices. It was considered, you were considered godlike if you were born with a misshapen head. And sometimes they would on purpose misshape the heads. So there'd be these long pointy things, or they would cut off a limb because it was considered sacred, but yet it was sacrificial. And so I wanted to create something otherworldly from a different time. What if they did that on another planet? You know, so I started going off in this creative thing, and Dean and I were talking about, and that's how that song, that's the energy of that song. Every one of these songs has a different story. And Daniel took those concepts when I talked to him about what the songs are about, and he created a futuristic world that could also have been our planet Earth 10,000 years ago, where you have spaceships landing down, and then you have all this, you know, the industrial stuff. But each page, oh my God, he just created this fantastical world. And each song is a separate story, but when you string them together, it tells the book. And that's what every album should be doing, because then the listener is going to journey in their own way. 1,000 people could listen to it, and you'll have 1,000 different interpretations, but they all will say something similar to what the storyline is. And it was the same with the Hemispherica Portalis. So this is fantastical worlds creating a storyline that goes that way. So that's what it is. We're weaving those things together, and every single artist on our label does that. Yeah, because we've helped facilitate that in them so they can understand. And I know Dean is working on his third, the trilogy. He has Salvaging the Past,
Really?
the Present. They're on Spotted Peccary. He's a Spotted Peccary artist. So Salvaging the Past, Salvaging the Present, and then Salvaging the Future is the one that's going to be coming out. And we're hoping to have it out by next year. He's just finishing the mixes. And the reason we got together is because he, like me, is a Libra, and Craig Padilla is a Libra. As a matter of fact, him and I share the same birth date. Craig Padilla and I just celebrated our birthday on the 20th of October. Really? So, so it's awesome that the 21st is this chaos coming out. The Libra Dean is the 18th of October. So I hope you don't mind me saying that. So we're 3 Libras, and we love each other. And Dean was one of the inspiring artists that Craig started doing music on. He heard him years and years ago. And so the 3 of us are very good friends, and we keep talking about wanting to do a project together. So maybe someday in the future, remember the 3 tenors? Well, we want to do something with the 3 Libras. That's right. That would be a good, I know exactly what you say. I'm a Gemini. So in my family, we are, I don't know, it's very weird. It's, my family, 80% or 85% or something like that, they are all engineers. My mom, my dad, my nieces, my nephew, my sister. I have 4 sisters, 2 of them married engineers, and so forth. And the majority, like 78%, they're all Geminis. Between, I don't know, June, early June. I'm a June 21st, the last day, but I have no idea why. It couldn't be a coincidence, because mathematically, right, it's over 50%, so it's 80% is very high. So, and we have a lot of them like music, you know. We have an artist that's a Gemini, I believe. And I hope I'm saying this correctly, and if not, I apologize to you. But Mavi Devi, Cheryl Gallagher, she is a Gemini, and she's very creative too. And she's an artist on the label and has done a couple things with Howard, and we did the Tibet album together. So good. Very good. It was very interesting. So yes, so I don't know, just this. When you guys are able to license the music there, I mean, for like a Netflix series or a television series, is there a source of income to licensing the music for TV or shows or soundtracks or stuff like that?
Yeah, you have good placement.
I would love to do that if we could. Sometimes we get a lot of inquiries for that stuff, but we're still searching for ways to get our music out there into those type of things, because it's good for the artist, obviously, because then they get that exposure with their music, and this style lends itself to that. So Dean, you have comments on that because you're in that realm.
I mean, yeah, it's probably a path of least resistance for you guys. You've established the label enough now where, I mean, you have great distribution and placement in other types of venues and other types of, with, you have clout with lots of different organizations, so to speak. So it's, I mean, I don't mean to make it sound like it's some big corporate thing. I'm just saying, you already you've grown the label to an undeniable legitimacy. So I do think it's probably, to get decent placement would be a path of least resistance, and we'll talk about it. You know, I was under the impression you had it already. So
we have we get a lot of people that inquiry with us, and we have licensed songs and tracks for different things, and have had it in a few things, but it's not to the extent that I would love it to be. So Claudio, any insights or help you have on that, we would be very grateful as well. If you have, I was hoping to get our whole catalog into a couple of musical libraries where people can do that, but they're hard to find, and some of them they want you to pay to put your stuff in there, and I'd rather give the money to the artist.
That's right.
You know, but
many of the people that electronic musicians that I have interviewed in the past do that because, I don't know, you know, Tangerine Dream, for example, right? They end up doing at least 60 soundtracks, right? They work with different German director at the time, and Popol Vuh did the same thing. And then
I would almost say it's almost as though Tangerine Dream legitimized electronic music as a scoring option. I mean, not, you know, just in the magnitude of the amount they put. I mean, I think they probably had a lot to do with that, and people are recognizing that now. Anyway, you were saying,
and then kind of normal for the kind of electronic musicians to license the record and license, and they create like a library where they offer the library to a TV station primarily, or some radio station or commercial entities, where they get paid every time that 10 seconds of the particular track in the library is used. John Bodie, for example, he mentioned the same thing. And it's hard to get into because there are many people want to go to nation, right? Like Kate Bush, for example, right? In the TV series, I don't know, that particular track that she did, you know, has been played millions of times. She get paid millions of dollars.
Up that hill,
and so on, right? So she doesn't need the money, but because she's very rich to begin with. But something like that. There gotta be many TV series, many shows. They need this type of music, right? For particular scene, or perhaps some upcoming movie directors. I would think Association Los Angeles that you know, you need to, I don't have it, but you need to have a good contact in the sound department, or NBC or CBS or any of those. I will call them. Reach out to
that's a good idea.
You know, whatever the entity that manage all the field composer, right, belong in Italy, belong to a particular entity. In United States, the same in Los Angeles. I will do, instead of you waiting for the call, I will make the call Monday morning and say, Dev, for you, call them the number, and then talk to somebody head of the sound library or sound department, whatever that may be called, and then send them some samples, and you know, you have a lot of great quality, a lot of great musicians that, and the mastering are very, very good, right? Whether you like electronic music or ambient music is different to what I want to say. Is the mastering, the quality is very good. Whether you like the music or not are two different things, right? And a lot of, in my opinion, I have, I don't know, at least 100 CDs from Tangerine Dreams, and half of them are no good. I don't like them. You know, the quality wasn't great.
Well, the quality wasn't great.
I know what you mean. I was a diehard fan too, so I know what you mean.
The quality wasn't there. It wasn't great. Half the stuff was good. The other, I will give it to other friend, or you know, but something like that, Dev. I will reach out to TV station, and then I need to do some research. And then because
if you can find, you know, that would only make it easier for us. you know,
Yeah.
this is something I spoke with Howard about
Yeah.
like 20 years ago, I think, or 15 years ago when I first got on the label. And he was talking about how important the radio station, we have a radio station out here
Yeah.
that's kind of like the center of the musical universe in a lot of ways, like the portal between Hollywood and the rest of the music world. And it's KCRW, it's the station out here that has, it kind of is the path of least resistance for a lot of musicians as far as getting placement in films and different forms of media, because a lot of the DJs on that station work as music editors for a lot of these studios now, movie studios, television studios. And I used to score source music for Viacom and for Universal, and that was a much different thing, granted, but that's essentially what a lot of these musicians are being used as, is source material. And back in those days, there's still music editors that aren't associated with any outfit like that radio station, but radio stations and influencers and people with a large amount of followers and a following play a much bigger role in that world now, the Hollywood and filmmaking world. And it's
another good thing that we use. Interview a guy, probably you guys know, Chuck Van Zyl. Yeah, so right, he has a program on radio every Saturday, I think between 1 and 4 a.m. every Saturday, and he play 20 tracks from different albums, and people send them send them stuff. And a lot of people listen to the stuff, to that particular TV show, to the radio show, for kind of electronic music, or for lack of a better word. And maybe I will ping him in the sense that, take the best of your artists or 20 tracks and then give him a call, and then they can, he wouldn't charge anything, I think, can air your music. And then from there, many of the listeners may be from radio station, or I know they are, or from record labels, or from film director that I'm looking for a particular type of music for somebody to compose their music for the movies and stuff like that. That could be a good revenue as well.
Sure, any lead is a good lead.
Yeah, and then create like a library, right? Create like a library, and then
it's probably
will be offered the library to radio station or film composer, or a film director or stuff like that. And
it's probably it's easier for Deb and for Spotted to do than it is for most even established musicians. I think it would be a path of least resistance. It just takes a little talking, a little strategizing. That's all.
Yeah, but it's a very difficult business to get into. I mean, I have interviewed several people that soundtrack is important in my life, and I have about, I don't know, at least 300 soundtrack or 400 soundtracks it is, and it's very difficult to get into it.
Very competitive.
Yeah, very competitive. These people are kind of very good at what they do and picky, and it's very, very hard.
Very specific, and we do reach out to music supervisors and such when we find them, but it is very, very specific, and a lot of times when we've had requests for licensing of songs and we put in our bid thing and they accept it, and we're very excited, and we let the artist know that it's being possibly used, but 9 times out of 10 it gets taken out in the editing room, because they'll cut the film a certain way, and then the director goes, no, that song doesn't work anymore, so we're going to go with this, and that's happened very recently in a few film things where we've had that, and so it's hit and miss. But I thought a music library would be good, because then whoever's looking for music, it would be part of the library of sounds that they could use. But we haven't found it. I'm still looking at that too, but there's all kinds of avenues for that. And You never know. So we'll
Yeah.
keep at it.
Yeah.
We'll keep at it because it's for the benefit of the artists, and
Correct.
it'd be nice to get them more recognition.
Many, I was thinking also many businesses like the owners of, meditation centers, if you will, or yoga centers, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
The big corporation, they could play your music, your type of music on, while somebody's doing exercise or yoga or meditation of, a good center will be here in Virginia. Could be I don't know if you were familiar with the Monroe Institute.
Oh, yes, we're very familiar with them. As a matter of fact, I went to visit them probably 12 years ago. Chris and I went there and spent a couple days and met with them. And I actually got interviewed about 5 years ago, I think, with Garrett Stevens, when he is now the head of that area. And they have licensed several of our albums to use with their HemiSync technology.
HemiSync, correct. Yeah.
And so that's been done. And that was pretty nice, for the artists. So that's another thing. And they're doing a lot of different things right now in terms of workshops and things. But
they're doing a lot more workshops and a lot of different programs. Very, very interesting stuff, So
yes, very, very interesting.
They're doing cutting edge research in different areas in meditation, and then out of body experiences, lucid dreams,
yes,
and et cetera, and life in between lives, and and there's a need for good music there as well. So I will.
We send them stuff, and then if it's something that they can use their technology on to put the different alpha, beta, theta, and delta wave into, then they will use it. But some of the music doesn't work out that way for it, but some does. And so
some does, right.
Yeah, some of it does. So.
All right, guys, it was very nice talking to you there again, and then Dean, keep on working, keep on doing your thing, man. I believe in yourself, trust in yourself, and we gotta push the envelope, like they say in the United States. And if 10 people say no, go after number 11 or 12, like I bring with my radios. At the beginning, nobody was giving me the time of the day, and I say it in many occasions that I was very conscious of my you have an accent, you have a lot of music and so support, but nobody will give me a time of the day. And now 200, 300 interviews later, I have talked to the best musician all over the world. So I'm an average guy. I did it. So
that's great. I mean, my greatest adversary has been myself. So I'm starting to get a leg up on him, and and maybe I'll fall again, and there seems to be the ebb and flow, but the chaos seems to be far less. No, actually, pun intended. But I it's less. It's more In Premonition. That's a great title, I guess, for where I'm at in life. It's definitely formulating into something now, and that wasn't the case for the last couple of decades, for maybe 70-80% of the time. So it's all the obstacles have been within, and I'm on the case. I promise. He's a worthy adversary, but I know I can get him.
Each one of us, unfortunately, is the way that we were raised, or psychologically, I don't know, we put obstacle in front of us, and you need to learn how to go around the maze and swim among sharks, if you will,
we all make life more difficult than it needs to be. About some degree. We all do that to some degree. Absolutely. I've done it to a greater degree than most. That's all.
I don't know. You need to. The world is not complicated. We are complicated people. Which is different, And then, and if that's your passion, and then you want to go after that, you need to convince yourself. Nobody is going to be, holding your hand, telling you what to do. At least in my head, I have certain goals in my life about family. I was schooling at the time, and now radio, and I will go after. I don't care if it takes 20 times or 30 or 50 times. I want to interview everybody in town. That's my goal, man.
That's a
Good.
fantastic goal. Claudio, I thank you so much for this opportunity for
no problem.
Desensitized and for the
yeah.
label. And thank you so much for all your support. And I will get stuff to you. So just let me
Sure,
know.
I will
And
say yeah, appreciate it.
it's an
Well,
honor talking.
no, you guys have something good to offer. I mean, like the Mac of this world or the Starbucks. Maybe Starbucks should be paying for the hosting them.
Oh,
You know, and because it's good quality. I mean, people pay, you know, an extra $2 for a cup of coffee, or $100 for an extra computer, or $2 more for a vinyl for a Peccary, because they know that they're what they're buying or licensing or whatever, it's good quality, and people some record labels, Deb and I have interviewed a lot of people from different record labels, and I have 200, 300 distinct record labels. Some record labels, they don't care. They want to make a easy money, you know, out of you. You know, give me the track, and you know, and whatever. And I don't care what your life is about, or I don't have interest to using good fonts or good quality or good imaging. I want to make a quick dollar, you know, out of our record label, so out of our record, our CD. People, they don't care. So you guys do. So it's a big difference. So
thank you so much,
no problem.
Claudio.
Sure. Good afternoon,
you.
good evening. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.